The American Bar Association says that fewer than 2% of new law school grads start a law firm right out of law school. Yeah. Maybe that's everybody in here. Maybe if it's not right out of law school, they also say that eventually 25% of all lawyers practice either solo or in small firms. So it's probably a good idea to just understand what's involved and what it looks like and what the options are, that kind of. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story. As you listen to my story, listen for how I did things or why I did things. That's probably an important thing for you to kind of get your mind around. I'll talk about the difference between having your own firm and having a job, because I did work in a large law firm for 4 years. And then I'll just start talking to you about, if you do have your own firm, some of the more fundamental things that you should think of when you're getting started in your own firm. So kind of those three major things. If you have questions, we've got a small group, so feel free to ask along the way. You don't have to wait or whatever. It could be interactive. But at the end of the day, my goal for you would be to have a window into what's possible for you as a career. And frankly, as a safety net for being a licensed lawyer. I think a lot of people don't realize that once you're licensed, you're an attorney, no matter whether you have a job or not, right? So anyways, I grew up in Orange County. I was a serious problem student. I had learning disabilities. I surfed. I did school and surfed all the time. I barely graduated high school. Took me on and off to get through college. San Diego State, I finally graduated. And I went to work in business management. And I was basically unemployable. I got fired from most of the jobs that I worked at because I just wasn't a good fit. I wasn't a team player. I wasn't somebody that followed directions. I thought that I could do things better than my boss and things like that. It didn't work out for me very well. And both my parents were practicing CPAs. And I tell you that because I'm not special. Okay, like I struggled all the way through, and I came to law school as a second career because I was trying to figure out what to do. But both my parents were CPAs. They both had small practices, so I saw what it was like to work for yourself, to be at least self-employed. My mother had 150 clients. She charged really low rates. People didn't pay her. She never had any money. She worked herself to death. My father had very few clients. He charged them very high rates. They all paid on time, and he did pretty well and had a nice lifestyle. I was like, okay, there's something to learn there. I didn't really think about it at the time, but there was something that was setting in for me. So anyways, I came to law school thinking, well, if I graduate and pass the bar, at least I know I can make $100 grand. I'm like, at least I'll have the security blanket for the rest of my life. I can get a job and make $100 grand. And that was, I started here in about 2006. I took a summer class. I sat in that back row right there where that guy in the black shirt sitting. That's my very first seat in the entire law school. And I graduated in 2009. I did 2.5 years. I took the February bar. Great Recession happened. The only job that somebody offered me was making $69,000 a year, foreclosing on people's homes, getting them kicked out of their house, and or representing the banks in that process and representing the banks against bankrupt people for 69 grand, working in the cubicle. I was just like, this is it. I had the student loans, had no income, no money, no job. And when I got sworn in, the judge who swore me in, he said something to me. I swear I'll never forget it. He says, he knew how bad it was, right? He's like, all your friends were making six figures being loan brokers, and here you are, you just spent, $200,000 and you got nothing. He says, let me tell you, you don't need a job, you need a client. And I was like, that was really the first time it dawned on me that day, that very day, I could be making money and practicing if I just had a client. And so I said, I'm going to look for a client and I'm going to look for a job at the same time. I have to admit, if someone offered me $100,000 working in business transactions, I would have taken it. Okay, I'm not saying like I did something special. I would have taken that job because I was desperate, but they weren't. And so I just sent out an email to everybody I knew. I said, hey, Pastor Bar, I'm licensed. I'm going to start my own practice. And I basically said, anybody with any legal questions whatsoever, call me, no charge, talk to you for free. I just wanted people to start calling me. So friends and family started calling me. My very first client was a friend of my mother's. She ran a nonprofit. She asked me a very simple question. She said, hey, can the name of our nonprofit as a corporation, can we change the name? I'm kind of embarrassed now, but I didn't even know the answer. I was like, well, I'm going to look into that for you. I'll get you an answer and tell you everything you need to do. I think it's going to cost $700. And I said, and I had a mentor, and the mentor taught me kind of how to get started. And he said, get the money up front. Just get it up front every single time. Even if it's not correct, even if it's going to be more or less, get something up front. So she sent me $700. I went to the law library. I looked it up. And I'm like, oh, yeah, you can do it. Then I figured, okay, well, why don't I tell her exactly how it can be done? That's a nice deliverable. And then when I delivered, I said, you can do it or I can do it. And if I do it, it's going to cost $1,000. Right? So, man, I'm making money like within the first month. It just so happened, my mentor was a tax attorney. He was a friend of my dad's. He was a tax controversy attorney. And he says, if you get anybody with tax problems, tell them you'll take it. And I'll help you figure out how to do it. Another one of my mom's friends, and she had a major tax problem, pretty major. And I said, okay, I'm going to take it. And I took it, and she paid me in advance, and I just worked on it. And I called my mentor. I'm like, hey, this is the issue. He's like, you should read this, do that. I said, okay, I'm going to do that. And I just struggled. I just tried to figure it out. There was no support system like there is now. I had a mentor. He was really good. And I would advise everybody here to find a mentor who, in your eyes, kind of, is an embodiment of maybe some kind of an attorney you might want to become one. It's the easiest way to have a mentor, to find somebody you can relate to, right? To find somebody you say, I want to be like that person. It's an easy way to have a mentorship. It's motivating. So that was really helpful for me. So what I did is I just told everybody I was a business lawyer. I took every single phone call, and I billed everybody in advance. That was the biggest thing right up front because I had the money right up front. I knew exactly what the work was going to be. I just did the best possible job I could. I got back to people the same day. I returned the work. And before I knew it, I had enough work on my own that looking for a job got in the way or didn't make any sense anymore. And in my first 6 months, I made like $40,000. And that was probably off of, maybe 5 or 6 small projects, and then 2, the tax problem, and then somebody else had an estate problem. They were trying to argue with somebody else. So look, things just came in and I just took it. I did one DUI case for a friend of mine who got into trouble. And I told him, I said, I don't know what to do. He's like, yeah, but you're going to do it better than I am. I said, okay, but you got to pay me. You pay me like $2,000. That was it. I'm just telling you, it wasn't like, you don't do this. You don't open this big office. You don't have to have a big website. You just have to tell people you're willing to help them. And you have to have the courage to say, give me the money. That's what you got to be able to do. And that's what I did. So that's kind of how it started. And I said, you know what? This thing could actually become something. Like I can actually do this and make a living at it. I'm a hardcore introvert, okay? But I'm also hardcore not wanting to work for somebody else. So I'm going to make whatever sacrifice I have to make to avoid working for somebody else. So I was like, I'm going to network. And the business networking organization that I first joined is called LaTip in La Jolla. And, there's hairdressers in there. There's real estate agents in there. There's every kind of small business person, insurance brokers, you name it. They're all in there. And I would go every single week, once a week, wake up early, put on my suit and tie, dress as nice as I could, even though that afternoon I was in my board shorts surfing, right? And you just got to show up. And so I just show up and I tell everybody the same thing. You have a problem, you got an issue, give me a call. Let's talk about it. Half the time I give them some free advice and they'd be on their way, happy. They'd always call me back, then they'd refer people. If they had an issue, I'd say, okay, I think I can help you. Let's start with this part of the issue. You pay me this much and we'll do this. And if that goes good, then we'll figure out how to solve it. And that was my deal. I just did that every single week. And so I guess my point is that if you want to be in practice for yourself, you have to accept the fact that the vast majority of your job in the beginning is getting clients. You have to get people to call you. You have to get people to like you, to trust you, to be comfortable giving you money. And all that is, I'm telling you, is just relationships. That's it. You don't have to think, oh, I got to go like this thing, we're going to network tonight, whatever. It doesn't matter what you call it. Doesn't matter what it is. You just have to learn how to be able to talk to people, shake their hand, care about their problems, be willing to talk to them for free, help them out, show them that you're willing to add value to them. And if you can do that, you can get an unlimited number of clients. In fact, you'll get more clients that you want, and you'll get a whole bunch of clients you don't want. Okay? But if you can do that, then you're set for life. You've broken free from the trap of depending on somebody else to pay your bills for you, your boss or your employee. So that's how I got started. I built it up over 5 years. The first 5 years, it grew every year. The second year, I made for the year, I made like $80,000. The third year, I made $100,000, and it just went up from there. And so, you have to understand that if you go get a job now, you might get $100,000. I don't know what they're paying now, but it's between 90 and 120 is my guess in San Diego for most jobs. I mean, you can make that in your first year or 18 months working for yourself. And I'm going to break some of that down for you so you can actually see what that looks like. But that's what happened. Then I did so much networking, right? If I wasn't billing, then I was building relationships. Those are my jobs, right? I got to bill and I got to build relationships. So I meet this guy. He's like 60, 63, something like that. He was a corporate lawyer. He knew everybody. Everybody loved him. He was a partner at Best and Krieger. He had worked there his entire career. Like he's been there like almost 40 years. I was like, this guy's my idol. He's like the king of M&A. He's like the corporate lawyer extraordinaire. I was like, this guy's awesome. So I just befriended him and I said, he's my mentor. I just adopted him as my mentor. I'm like, hey, I just figured it out on my own, but I didn't know if I was doing a great job, a good job, a bad job. I just knew my clients liked me and they paid me and they kept coming back. That's all I knew. I didn't know if I was doing a good job. I knew my clients were happy. And he's like, why don't you bring your book of business into our firm? And so I did it. I went to work. I brought all my clients over there. I worked there for 4 years. And then I got to work on a lot more interesting things, right? Bigger transactions, wealthier clients, more sophisticated things, more things were at stake. And it really advanced my knowledge and my experience. And so I didn't really want the job, but I knew that there was something about it that was worth doing. And I said to myself, if I just do it for a couple of years, maybe 5 years at the most, I'm going to come out ahead. And if it's the worst thing ever, I could just quit and go back to doing it. And so I did it for 4 years, and it was totally cool. They were happy. I was happy. All my clients came with me. And when I left, I said, I can't be as broad as I used to be. I'm going to just do M&A. That's it, just transactions. And by then, I had gotten some nice bonuses. I had paid off my student loan. I paid off my student loans in about 6.5 years. Working for myself, going to work there. And then I left. I was like, now I can chill and specialize now because I wasn't so desperate for money. And as soon as I specialized and said I'm only doing M&A, it changed my life. Like it just changed everything. All the clients started coming. The fees went way up. I got busier than I ever wanted to be. It was because I either had done all the hard work to build a book of business and then gotten to work for a large firm and had all that experience and knowledge, and then said, I'm just going to do this one thing and I'm going to do it as good as I can do it. And that's what I'm going to focus on. And I'm going to capitalize on everything that's happened to them. And I've been doing that for the last 7 years. And that's been extraordinary. I'm going to get into the details of that. Okay. So here's the thing. If you go work at a job, you're gonna work 5-6 days a week. And you're gonna work 8 to 10 hours a day. Because you're gonna have 7.5 to 8 hours of billable requirement every day. Then you're gonna have to do some administrative work. Then you're gonna have to go to certain functions and certain meetings. So you will be working 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, as long as you're there. And the only way you get ahead is by working harder, doing better work, and telling your partners and your bosses that you can take that on, that you can take that on. And before you know it, you're working your life away. You have no free time. You might get some big bonuses, but I'd say in the first 3 to 5 years, you're not going to be making more than $250, something like that. That would be good. You get a couple big bonuses to push you over into that range. But you're going to pay for it. And when you burn out, because one day you might burn out, not everybody does, or maybe one day when you want to have a family or you want to do anything, you just want to take a break. You step out of that system, you have nothing. You have zero income. You may have paid off your student loans, you may have some money in the bank, but you have no income. So you're vulnerable. They can take that from you at any time. And that's something that I wasn't exposed to that because I had my own book of business. But everybody else that works at a firm like that, they're stuck. They can't leave, they burn out, and then they quit being a lawyer because they think that's what being a lawyer is. That's not what being a lawyer is. That's just one way to be. And so it's important to understand that it may be the easy path now to make $120,000, to have health insurance, to pay all your bills and all that kind of stuff, and to have a track and have people teach you and have people feed you work. Of course that's easy. But the longer you do it, the harder it gets. Whereas the inverse is true when you start your own practice. It's hard in the beginning, but the more you do it, the easier it gets. It doesn't even feel like working after a while. When you specialize, you know all the information so well, it doesn't feel like working. It just comes naturally to you. So I think it's important to understand that. So is anybody in here good at math? Good? Okay. If you have a calculator, this is an important exercise, I would say. So if you wouldn't mind calculating with me. Let's say you start your own firm and you start out charging $400 an hour. Okay? That's your rate, $400 an hour. There's 20 working days in a month. There's actually 21 working days in a month, but let's just do 20. It's easy to give you some time off. And let's say you work 1 hour a day of the 20 days. How much are you going to make? 1 hour a day times 20 days times $400.
Almost $100,000 a year.
That's $100,000 a year, right there. $100,000 a year, working 1 hour a day. Okay, Now you can work 5 hours in a day and not work Tuesday through Friday, if that's what you want to do. Okay. What happens if you work 2 hours a day? Now you're making close to $200,000. Okay. Not to mention that when you work for yourself, you have massive tax advantages that you don't have when you get a paycheck. Okay. Your cell phone, your meals, driving, all these types of deductions that you can get that you can't get as an employee. So you get more take home pay. So then what happens when you just increase your rate by 50%? Now you're charged $600 an hour to working 2 hours a day, 20 days a month. The numbers start adding up really fast, really big. And when I got started, all I had to do was answer the question if you can change your corporate name. Okay, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to do it. So I think it's important. You got to get used to doing this kind of math in your head, because then you realize, this is my opinion, not everybody's opinion, you realize what a waste of time working at a job is. It's just such, in my personal opinion, you just selling yourself short when you go to work for somebody else. You might have to do it sometimes. You might do it for the first year or two. You might do it for like what I did to enhance your credentials and those types of things. But you have to be careful about making your life that way. Some people like to work with other people. Some people like that. It's nothing wrong with that. It's fine. But if you're in this class, and particularly if you're me, that's just an alternative that won't work. So if you bill 1 or 2 hours a day and you spend another 1.5 to 2 hours a day building relationships, going to lunch with people, even just going on a walk, going to the dog park, coming to a school function, going to the state bar meeting, joining a social club. Like I surfed, I would join a surf club and hang out with other people that surf. You go join a hiking club. All right, what do you do? Oh, I'm a lawyer. Bam, marketing, done. Then you spend the whole time talking about them, right? So it's not hard. I just wanted to kind of paint that picture so that you can kind of see. Does anybody have any questions right now where we're at? Anything that anybody was like, what about this or what about that?
What was your learning process like when you were trying to establish your rates for this work that you were attempting for the first time?
Yeah. It's just a shock that the first time, I mean, the $700, I just threw it out there. There was no basis for it whatsoever. I just said it might take me a couple hours to figure this out, but no matter what, I don't know. Let's see if $700 works. You just got to try it. I started at $200 an hour. This is 15 years ago. That was too low. Went to $250, went to $300, and I was like, okay, I was between $300 and $500 for a long time. Just barely incremental. Now I charge $650. I could probably charge more, but fine. Yeah.
We got that first client for $700. To take any formal steps like open an entity, get malpractice insurance or anything?
The quick answer is no. That's I'm sure that the program here does a phenomenal job of laying all of that out, and all of those things are important. But when you need to make money, you get clients and you do the work. That's all that matters. That's all that matters in this business. You get the client and you do the work. Everything else is a distraction. Everything else is unnecessary. I was sitting in my 1-bedroom apartment with a cell phone and a laptop. That's all it was. And I was going to meetings, I had one suit, I shake hands, put on my suit. That was the whole deal.